fellow romance readers, I'm Amy.
And I'm Sarah, and this is Post-Book Depression. You know that feeling you get when you finish a good book that you didn't want to end?
Have you finished a book and just weren't ready to move on from the story and its beloved characters? You find yourself needing just a little more? This multi-trope romance podcast gives you the opportunity to dig deeper with us into books we love as we discuss all the reasons we can't move on.
Feeling chatty? You can continue the conversation with us on Instagram at Post-Book Depression Podcast or on Facebook in our Post-Book Depression discussion group.
We would be so grateful if you would subscribe to our podcast and take a moment to leave a review.
Are you ready? Let's discuss.
Hi everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Amy.
And I'm Sarah, and today we're going to be discussing Heartbreak Hill by Heidi McLaughlin.
The first few minutes we're going to do a brief review of the story without any spoilers, then we are going to shift into a deeper book discussion that's going to include lots of spoilers, but don't worry, we're going to let you know before we do shift into that deeper book discussion.
That's right, so before we dive in, Amy, tell us a little bit about the story.
A young man with a heart condition that he has kept hidden from those closest to him collapses after a basketball game. As he waits for a solution, the love of his life must face the gravity of the situation and prepare for the unknown. Sarah, what did you think about Heartbreak Hill?
Oh, the story was...
It's all in the name.
It is. It's totally in the name. I loved this story. I had a lot of feelings. Mm-hmm. Just, it was very emotional. There was a lot to unpack. And one of the things I love is that we don't have just one set of a couple. We have two couples, and how those lives kind of intersect at points is very interesting. What'd you think?
I had this one sitting on my to be read for a while, and I put it off honestly because the title told me it was going to break my heart.
Yeah.
And while I love an emotional story that crushes my soul, you guys know this about me, I was afraid to start it just for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. Yes, it was heartbreaking at times, but it was beautiful, and it just repairs your heart in the best way. Let's get into our ratings. Angst.
It was like a 1.5 for me.
I did 1.
Yeah.
Pretty smooth story with only a few hiccups along the way.
Yeah.
Humor?
I feel like I kind of struggle with this. I said 0.5 because I didn't feel like it was overly humorous, but there was humor in it.
I did 0. I think I might have inwardly chuckled maybe once or twice.
Yeah, that's where I kind of struggled. I was like, I don't know what to really
say.
Give it.
Yeah. Spiciness.
Like a 1.25 maybe.
I did 1.
Yeah. It's not, I feel like mine's high.
I mean, 1.25. Tears.
Okay, you think it would be a little higher, but I only did 2.
I did 2 as well. I did cry.
I did too.
There are some heavy scenes with tragedy, and that's where I cried.
Yeah, I did too. But I didn't feel like...
I didn't feel like crying the whole story.
I wasn't overwhelmed with sadness, if that makes sense.
Yes. All right, overall.
Okay, overall this was a 4.25 for me.
Me too. It was a beautiful story. It's emotional. There was a unique twist I didn't see coming, some surprises in it that I'm excited to dig into.
Me too.
That concludes the spoiler-free quick review of this story. Now we're going to shift into a deeper discussion that's going to include lots of spoilers. If you haven't read the story yet, stop and go check it out, and then of course come back and join us on that deeper discussion. We would love to connect with you on social media. You can find us on Instagram at Post-Book Depression Podcast, on Facebook in our Post-Book Depression discussion group, and you can also email us at postbookdepressionpodcast@gmail.com. Sarah, this story has an interesting twist to it in the fact that we get 2 relationships we get to deep dive into, and we're going to begin with Grayson and Reed. And the story opens at Grayson's basketball game. Let's begin.
I love that it starts off with Grayson being super jealous that Reed has some guy like talking her up, and he's not digging that. That made me so happy. I love it when they get kind of alpha male feeling. I know a lot of people are like, oh no, don't, feminism. And I'm like, I like it.
I know. Me too. Grayson's inner dialogue is talking about how he feels about Reed. And he is basically in love with her, but she doesn't know it. Well, he doesn't know that he thinks she doesn't know it. And like you said, he's jealous of these other guys that are around showing her attention. We do get the perspective of Reed having some feelings for him as well. She definitely is all in on a relationship with him, but he's putting some distance between the two of them, and she doesn't know why. He hasn't really communicated with her the reason why, but as the reader, we quickly learn when he starts to have some chest pain on the basketball court. Yeah. Let's talk about this scene where he starts to have a heart attack.
Well, they're leaving his game. She tells him,
confronts him, yeah.
I'm going to start dating. Because they've had a night together.
Yes, they've been intimate one time before.
They've been intimate one time.
But they're best friends.
And yeah, they're best friends. They work together. She works in HR. He works in another department. They're very close. They do everything together. And she just, after they had their night together, he has never really, he kind of pumped the brakes.
And she was fully expecting a relationship to blossom.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, naturally, that would be where my mind would go too.
Especially with your best friend.
Well, especially if you didn't disclose before that this is just a one-time thing. Yeah. Anyway, so she just says, I'm going to start dating. And he goes into cardiac arrest, and she is thinking he's joking. Very funny. Oh, I wounded you kind of thing. And then she realizes he's really having a heart attack. So he's taken to the hospital, and he has had a heart attack, and he is young.
Yes, and he's in great need of a new heart. His heart is failing him, and he needs a transplant almost immediately. We shift over to Rafe and Nadia. We get Rafe's perspective. It's the morning of this race that he's going to run, and he has a really lovely start with his family. He's got 2 girls, Linnea and Gemma. And they have this lovely breakfast together, and he thinks, I couldn't have had a more perfect morning when he goes out. And that's really the only time that we get Rafe's point of view through this story. So they head over to the race. Nadia's there with his parents, which are
There's some tension between her mother-in-law and her for some reason that is developed, and we don't ever find out why.
We really don't, but there's definitely...
We don't like her.
No. Immediate disliking to Cleo, her mother-in-law. But they're there to cheer him on at the end of the race. And it's here at the race that they realize there's something that's happened. The runners aren't coming through the end like they should be. They see a medical services, emergency medical team on site with an ambulance, and she immediately pulls up his phone location because she's expecting him anytime. He told her, this is about the time that you should expect me. And sees his location near this accident and immediately rushes over to try and figure out what's going on. This is a really heartbreaking scene because as the reader, you know, because you do get that perspective from Rafe when this scene actually happens, the accident, where he tries to push a woman who's about to be hit by a car out of the way and gets hit himself and immediately taken to the hospital. This was a really hard scene to read.
Yeah, I was crying. It was really heartbreaking because the runner had on big headphones and couldn't hear the car honking their horn trying to get the runners to attention.
She figures out that he's on the ambulance ride to the hospital because his phone tracking is moving now at a rapid pace, and she runs over to the officer there at the scene and says who she is, and they take her to the hospital. And it's here that we learn that our beloved Rafe he's on life support, and he's basically brain dead, and asks about whether or not the family would like to donate Rafe's organs. And there's some mixed emotions here. His family is very adamantly against it. Nadia needs some time to think about it, and in the end she does decide to donate his organs. And of course, as the reader, you know, you've got these 2 storylines going along, and you know that Rafe's heart is going to be the one that saves Grayson. Let's move back over to Grayson and Reed learning of Grayson's heart condition.
I felt so heartbroken for Reed because they had to put Grayson in a medically induced coma for a month. He's been in a coma for a month, and she did not know until his mom, who she's very close to, asked if he has been taking his meds because he's had a heart condition. So things really start to make more sense in Reed's mind as to why Grayson has always pumped the brakes on moving forward. It's obvious that he likes her. Yes. She knows that.
Yes.
And so she's kind of starting to understand a little bit more. She's also very angry with him
As a reader, I gotta say I was angry too that he didn't take his medicine.
I was too. Just take your medicine. Like, all of this could have been prevented, but she finds his medication and that he has not been taking it. I felt her anger and frustration. I also thought, I don't know. I don't know if I could be angry with him because he's in a coma and he might not make it, but I understand the emotion. You're probably feeling a whole slew of feelings. But he ultimately gets a heart.
Yes.
So when Grayson wakes up, it's a total turnaround for him. But he doesn't realize what has happened.
Yeah.
And they have to tell him, you have to remain calm. But you had a heart transplant. And you've been here for a month. And it's...
I found it interesting that his perspective was... What if I didn't want someone else's heart? I didn't get a choice in that. I found that interesting because I think it's a health professional at some point in the story that tells him, maybe it's a counselor. I think it's a counselor that says most people who get transplants have time to prepare for that, and he did not.
Right.
And so I found that unique twist to this story very interesting, and his perspective of questioning. Obviously, he's very grateful and decides, I've been given a second chance at life. But for a brief moment, he has the thought, what if I didn't want that?
Yeah, because somebody had to die in order for him to get it.
Someone sacrificed their life, and he got a heart as a result of that. So I felt like his emotions and his processing were very genuine.
Sure.
And believable. And he now, like you said, he's having this newfound perspective on life and really wants to be all in with Reed. On the flip side of that, we have Nadia, who has lost her life partner. She has 2 young children. She's trying to figure out how to navigate life on her own with these girls. She's grieving, obviously, and going through just a traumatic time. I gotta say, this scene where they have the wake, they do the funeral, the wake, all of that, and she's having to say goodbye to him, I sobbed.
I did too.
Like a baby.
Pretty much every scene with them I sobbed because she's 35. Her husband was 40. They have 2 little girls. Those girls are young enough, they're not going to remember. One of them's not going to remember hardly anything about their dad.
No.
I felt like I was walking through those emotions and feelings alongside her.
Me too.
And almost witnessing it firsthand.
Yes, and in addition to that, she has this complicated relationship with her mother-in-law, and they're constantly having differing opinions on how things should be handled and different things. Her mom, Nadia's mom, has decided to stay with her for a little bit to help her with the girls, and I was so thankful for that. I just can't imagine losing your life partner and still having to go on. But I do really like the fact that the author chose to write these scenes so organically and authentically, in the fact that one of the younger girl, Linnea, sucks her thumb, and that's a step backwards for her, but her mom allows it because she recognizes that as a comfort.
Right. And
her.
I love that she put her mother-in-law in her place about that too, because I thought, you've got to be kidding. This is going to be the thing that we're going to find fault with right now? Are you serious? Like, is this the battle you want to fight? I don't think so. Not in this moment. That's ridiculous.
And allowing her kids to stay home from school for a while, to a point, you know, you don't want to enable, but there's a time for this grieving period, and I really, really liked the way the author wrote the authenticity of that.
One of the things I loved is when she's having a hard day one time, and she goes and gets her girls out of their beds and puts them in her bed. I thought that would so be me. Like, I think that there would have to be moments where they have to be in their own bed, because I need to be able to cry my heart out without my kids witnessing that. But I would absolutely need them too, because you need that comfort, because they are a comfort to you just like you're a comfort to them. I thought that was a very
the scene,
real.
And this does kind of move a bit, but I like the scene where it's Rafe's birthday and they make the birthday cake, and she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to get out of bed that day, but her girls, she can hear the excitement in their voice, and they're wanting to bake a cake with the grandma, and she puts one foot in front of the other, and they make a the best they can. They make that situation a little bit more, they laugh, they smile in that moment. And I like those little moments of reprieve from the grief for her and the girls, just knowing, having walked my own journey of grief, how healing those moments are, even though they might be short-lived.
I love how her mom has to tell her at one point, you kind of have to get it together. Like these girls need. I felt that was very real.
Yes.
Because she could sit in those feelings forever. And then also the struggle she feels when everybody's gone. And it's just her and the girls. And she doesn't know how to do it. She doesn't know how to be the single parent because she didn't sign up for that. All those moments felt so genuine and real. And the way that the author was able to tap into that and make it feel like this is somebody's journey.
Yeah.
Like right now, this is how they're feeling. Was just really, you could tell it felt very authentic, which I felt that way through the whole story.
Yeah, me too. Let's talk about Kieran. Reed's best friend. How he's showing up for Nadia and the girls in the smallest but the biggest of ways. On their first day of school, bringing them the chocolate milk and the flowers.
Because that's what their dad did.
And helping her around the house and stepping up. You could tell that he's never had romantic feelings for her leading up to this. There's never been any, crossover between that. But he's showing up for Nadia in these girls in these moments and starting to build a connection and a relationship with Nadia. First out of friendship and helping her survive. And then, of course, developing into more. I definitely saw this relationship coming from the very beginning, seeing them together. But I loved watching it organically grow in a natural way.
I loved watching it grow. I struggled with the timeline.
Okay.
Because it's like at one point, it's like 5 months, 6 months after Rafe had died.
But they keep those little nuggets of feelings to themselves. They don't really act on them. And I think for Kieran especially, he's hesitant because he doesn't want to cross that line knowing that she's still grieving. My heart at the funeral when he hugs her and they both break down sobbing for the first time together, it crushed me. Knowing that he lost his best friend, she lost her partner in life, and they had a bond over that.
Well, and he felt guilty because he was supposed to run that day.
Yes.
And he didn't. I will say at the very end of the story, after some time has passed, because time does pass.
Yes.
I am very happy for her, and I am happy for who it ends up being, although I do kind of struggle because I think, oh my goodness, did you have attraction to his wife when they were together? But like you said, there's not. It develops later because you do have to stop and think they're probably not interacting in the way that they are after Rafe. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's a completely different interaction than this is a friend, because then it's like we know this is a friend. There is a friend zone and the interaction is not the same.
Correct.
And he was also seeing a side of Nadia that nobody else was seeing. He's seeing what she's going through, how strong she is, how brave she is, and how she's overcoming. So he's being introduced almost to a different Nadia than what Rafe was married to, in a sense.
And it's slow. He's only there on Saturdays for a long time, and then she invites him to dinner on Sunday. So it's a slow build.
The Halloween.
Oh, the Halloween setup with the decor. Oh, I love this man. I just loved him for stepping up when he didn't have to. Let's shift back over to Grayson. And he has this heart transplant. And he's starting to experience something that's very unsettling to him. He doesn't understand what's happening. We learn that it's called cellular memory. Did you do a deep dive on this?
Girl, you know I did.
Tell me what you learned.
That, well, basically what she wrote.
Is this a real thing?
For some people, they believe it is. But like the author wrote, it can't be proven. But I did find the woman who, when they talked about how she hated baseball and then she loved baseball, found that article, read that. That was fascinating. How do you feel about this? What are your thoughts on it? I'm interested.
I'm so torn because on the one hand, how cool that you can have a part of someone still live on through someone else, but how hard for the person who's having to live it and experience it, and Well, for him, he got some resolution to figure out why he was feeling this way, but I'm sure many people that might be living with cellular memory might never get that resolution or satisfaction or answers, and they're just wondering why they feel different emotions or feelings that they can't explain or
I
understand.
would want it to be a heart of a really, really, really good person.
Yes.
Because...
Can you imagine if you got the heart of someone who is evil?
Oh my gosh.
What a totally different story.
Plot twist.
Dark rom-com or dark romance.
Oh man, no, I don't like that. I find it fascinating and I think it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I believe
it could happen.
I believe it could happen, and I wish that more people would stop just looking at the science of it and think about how incredible our bodies are and what they can do. And I'm like, of all the things that our bodies can do, you're gonna argue that one?
I know.
Okay.
One of the things, and I have to say, I would be this person too. I would be right there with Grayson, is trying to figure out why and what is happening. And he comes to discover through a lot of internet research that he has Rafe's heart. I gotta say, friend, my mind was blown that he had a history with Nadia. I did not see that coming.
I did not see that coming. That was a plot twist that I was like, oh no. And then I was like, love triangle. Don't like that.
I know.
I don't like this.
I really, really liked that the author addressed that very quickly when he showed up on Nadia's doorstep, that there was not an attraction there. It wasn't their connection that he was feeling in the cellular memory.
Which was kind of sad to a degree.
Yes.
If you think
Nadia,
about it.
Yes.
It's like, I feel really connected to my daughters. I don't miss you that much. But my girls, I do.
We would have a different story, though, if...
But it was for Reed.
Yes.
It was for the sake of Reed. They can't have him in love with her and her in love with him.
Especially with the history. That
it would be messy.
That would be weird. So he takes his best friend from work, and they go to visit Nadia. I want to know how you felt about this visit.
I didn't like that he lied to Reed, or omitted, I guess. Just didn't tell her. I didn't like that. Situation. And especially because he felt so uneasy about it. I'm like, well, you feel uneasy because you know you're not doing the right thing.
Yes.
I also felt like his friend, Pierce?
Yes, I think so.
I think it's Pierce. I also like that he was questioning the decision and unsure. He wasn't on board with the cellular memory, though. I didn't get that vibe from him. Yeah. I also thought it would be really weird because it's been 15... Well, they went to college. They separated when they went to college, so they haven't seen each other for 17 years. I would be like, ex-boyfriend on my doorstep 17 years later telling me they're sorry my husband died. Weird.
They felt very close for not having seen each other in 17 years.
At your house.
Yes.
You know, like they showed up at your house.
They didn't call, they didn't message, they showed up at the house.
That was weird.
He had a connection with the girls right away. He went out and had the little tea party, which was so cute. I'm jumping ahead a bit, but because we're talking about the girls, I want to talk about the dance. The fact that Linnea called him, and in the end, they go to the dance together. As a mom, I want your perspective on how you felt about her sending Linnea with someone she hasn't seen in 17 years other than the one time he stayed at their house.
No.
Okay,
no.
I felt the same thing. And I don't know at what point she realized that he had Rafe's heart, because she does allude to that with Reed when they have that conversation. But as a reader, we don't know if she knows this at this time and she's on board with it. I felt that very strange.
It was... I would have to know, here's what I would need to know. What was your relationship with the family? Because he knew her family, but again, they haven't seen each other in years. And I'm just going to be honest with you, Amy. Somebody showed up, not that I ran into them in public, that at my doorstep, then my daughter wants to go, what? As a mom, no. Kieran taking Gemma, sure. Yes. Take them both.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was confusing to me because Kieran has been a part of their life since their dad passed away, and they're growing a relationship with him. They're seeing him all the time. It logistically and just relationally did not make sense that Linnea would feel so connected that out of the blue she would take her mom's phone and call Grayson to ask about taking her to the dance.
Yeah.
This whole scene was very just weird to me.
So here's what I feel. I feel like this part of the story is the part that would be unrealistic. However, I think what the author's intentions is to play into that cellular memory connection, because when they're playing, he says something or does something that is just like their dad.
Yes.
And she feels that. And so
from the perspective of the girls, I totally buy that.
Yeah.
It's
as
Nadia.
a mom, would
as
you
a mom,
make that? No.
Making that and feeling comfortable, because you could know someone and they be someone totally different 17 years later.
Yeah, I would like to think that nobody wants to be remembered for their 18-year-old self. You know, we kind of did stupid stuff. So
the fact that she felt safe enough to send her young daughters with a man that she has only recently reconnected with over Kieran just blew my mind. And I know probably in her mind at this point she's suspecting that he has Rafe's heart, but still.
Yeah, I don't know. In the real world, do I think it would be realistic? Probably not. Although there are some parents that are just like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I'm like, no. But me, please, you know me. Absolutely not. I mean, I could have a background check and it would be a whole thing.
I literally wrote in my notes, I need to know Sarah's perspective on this as a mom. So thank you for sharing that with me.
You didn't even have to ask. You know I'm crazy, Mom. It's
I know.
There ain't no way you're taking my child.
Let's talk about Reed's acceptance and just her processing Grayson's cellular memory and the lying and just this whole part of their relationship.
I was happy that she took time. It's kind of hard because they're engaged at this point. So that's got to be awkward when you're living together. Yeah. Not talking to the person you're living with. It's like I could see giving a little bit of cold shoulder, but like 2 weeks I think has passed. And he doesn't really know where he stands. But it's kind of like she deserved that time, and I was happy that she took it to kind of process her feelings, because I would completely be feeling all of that. And she asked very valid questions of, when we get married and we have our own kids, where do they fit? Like, how does that fit into our lives? I don't understand. Reed's side of this felt more real.
Yes.
Than Nadia sending her daughter to a dance.
Yes, 100%. She does surprise Grayson and shows that he invites her to come on this trip to Boston for the dance and all of that. And she shows up. The girls love Reed.
I know.
They've been talking on FaceTime and he talks about her all the time, which I think helped in her mind give her some peace of mind to know there's no chemistry between him and Nadia. And so while they're there, she goes out shopping with Nadia and the girls, and this is where they make the connection and the realization that he has Rafe's heart. Because up until this point, they were just kind of suspecting. And this brings them together to have this open conversation with each other.
Which is a big thing for Reed. She is adamant that he tells Nadia, and he kind of has a couple of moments and he just passes them by, which was very frustrating for me.
Yeah.
Because he was so scared that she would not allow him to be a part of their lives.
Yeah.
And he couldn't handle that ache in his heart if that was the decision.
Early on in Grayson and Reed's relationship, especially after the surgery and they're dating and they're immediately engaged and all of that, I just felt their relationship was so super sweet. I was bracing for impact and waiting for the shoe to drop. I knew there had to be some kind of tension or some kind of problematic situation, and this was definitely it. It fit the bill, but I was bracing for that. You talked about how they were open and honest about their conversation, which kind of opens up the door for them to form this bond and friendship amongst the two families and build this foundation together. Let's round out our chat with their HEA and how they all come together intertwined.
I love that after some time has passed, Reed and Grayson are married. They are very close to the family. Nadia has kind of become like a sister to Reed, and Kieran finally, Nadia doesn't feel like she can ever move on. She doesn't want to hold Kieran back. I love that she finally just accepts those feelings that she has, because she deserves happiness. She's so young to be living the rest of her life alone. So I was so thankful for that. And they just have this unique dynamic, like found family.
Yes.
And I have to say, I really loved it.
I did too. I wasn't expecting to, but I did.
It would be really hard. I love, too, we have to make mention of, they give the girls the bears.
The bear with the heart. I loved Gemma's response.
I don't want it.
Why do I need this? I got the real thing. Oh, that was so special.
That?
Yes, I did. That was special.
So beautiful.
Yes.
It was a beautiful, heartbreaking
yeah.
story, dare I say. Well, that concludes our episode of Heartbreak Hill. We hope you enjoyed this discussion and want to continue the conversation with us. You can hit us up on our Instagram at Postbook Depression Podcast or on our Facebook at Postbook Depression Discussion Group. You can also email us at postbookdepressionpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, keep reading.